to listen stories to and from South Sudan. We have three people, Bishop Patrick Augustine, Lynn, and Anne-Marie. They both will be speaking for 7 to 10 minutes, talking about their own journey with Christ and how CMS played a significant role in their lives in exploring further where God is calling them to. If I may invite Bishop Patrick Augustine, who is an honorary bishop in the Diocese of Bor in South Sudan, but he has an amazing journey. Born and brought up in Pakistan at CMS House, and then went to the United States and became one of the most senior priests in the Episcopal Church of the United States. And then at the conclusion, or maybe in the last phase of his ministry, he's now a bishop in South Sudan. I was just making a comparison in my own head. The first bishop of Egypt and the Sudan was from Wales. I'm not going to say Bishop Patrick is the last bishop, but it's an amazing comparison. Mission, as we all know, is by everyone to everyone, everywhere to everywhere. And these are wonderful examples that CMS, along with organizations, has proved, and again help us to reflect on how church is contributing everywhere in the world from the first century. Without taking too much time, if I may invite Bishop Patrick Augustine.
Today, Ranak allowed me to give some introduction as somebody asked me, why I was here present from United States. And so you don't need any introduction about me, who I am, where I come from. But I would like to say that, as I said yesterday, I repeat that my involvement into South Sudan became through the Yes magazine of CMS in 1992. I was a priest near Washington, D.C. in a church. It's a large church, Church of the Holy Comforter in Vienna, Virginia, about 2,400 people. I served there as God's servant, as a priest. And I used to receive Yes magazine for many, many years. I used to subscribe. It had on the cover a picture of Bishop Nathaniel Garang of Bor and the story, what was going on inside South Sudan. So I got involved, and then God kept opening new doors. And I would like to go back in 1972. There were churches from the Anglican Communion who met in Toronto, Canada. And in that meeting, there were three dioceses who said, we will partner with Sudan. Diocese of Salisbury, Diocese of Bradford, and Diocese of Southwestern Virginia in the United States in the North America. And these three dioceses became faithful partners over many, many years. And then later in 1995, I became the chair of that link up till 2008, of that link with the Anglican province of the Episcopal Church in Sudan. And then after 1998, where I was advisor to Archbishop George Carey at Lambeth, I was asked to be a canon and commissary to newly appointed Archbishop Joseph Morona. And I served in that capacity, as an honorary capacity up till 2008. And I visited many dioceses, but before that, I also went in 96, first time, to Kakuma refugee camp with a large refugee community. And as a chair of that link, I opened study centers there with Mark Nickel and supported hundreds and hundreds of children's education. And I meet them now inside South Sudan and outside South Sudan, whom we educated. And because of that first visit in 96, I made 19 visits so far. And out of that visit, what I saw, I wanted to pen down and inform the world community and in the United States churches and civic organizations and government organizations. So I penned down my eyewitnesses stories. Hear my people's cry, the story of the persecuted church in South Sudan. And I remember visiting inside while we flew from Kakuma refugee camp in February 1996 with Bishop Nathaniel Garang and Mark Nickel, who was a missionary, joint missionary from CMS and Episcopal Church. I wrote down, and in this book I mentioned that what I saw, the suffering of God's people, and about their vibrant faith, carrying and holding the Dinka crosses in their hands when they welcomed us. And this was a cross then given to me by Bishop Nathaniel Garang. And I saw thousands of people carrying these crosses while many of them were, kind of hungry and naked and homeless, and their farms were destroyed, their homes were burned. But when I saw the faith of these people, I wrote down that night in, I just had a little candle and I wrote on a piece of paper. And I'd like to share with you the followers of Jesus in this land of oppression and killing fields have adopted the cross to symbolize the only life they want to live. In the sign of the cross, they conquer the forces of darkness, oppression, and hatred, and evil. To them, cross represents the only struggle, the pain of betrayal, suffering, affliction, and the triumphant faith to follow Jesus Christ. And this verse came to my mind that night from St. Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, for the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are being perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. When I saw that vibrant faith in the face of oppression and persecution and hunger and disease, I said, I want to stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in South Sudan. And I kept going back and visiting, churches. And when I became canon commissary to Archbishop Joseph Morona, I would go twice a year. And then Joanna Udell, who was also the same work what Bishop Anthony Pogo doing after she came from from Sudan, she became also the Archbishop's advisor on the Anglican affairs. And then Joanna was there and she would travel with me and Archbishop Joseph Morona, and we visited many dioceses. Each time 2 or 3 dioceses we would visit throughout South Sudan, and before 2011 also Sudan. And after that I kept supporting churches and especially education of the children and mothers union and clergy education. So then in 2008, I received a letter from Internal Archbishop Reuben Okurdet from South Sudan, from Bor, that since I've been coming for 33 years and been their brother, standing in solidarity with them, and would I consider to be an assistant bishop to be with him in the Diocese of Bor and in Jingale province to support their work. I do not. So I gave that letter to my presiding bishop, and he then negotiated with the Archbishop of South Sudan. And then last year, he asked me, presiding bishop, to resign. So I resigned from a parish where I had served in different parishes in the United States for 37 years. So I could resign and have a pension and Social Security. And so then I resigned on June 2nd. I left on June 3rd with my diocesan bishop and 2 other priests to go to Bor, South Sudan. It took us 4 days. I was consecrated on June 9th. And since then, I have been there twice. Each time I've stayed there for 2 months or sometimes a little over 2 months. And I do not have any administrative position. What I see is my role is to assist, to support, because the Sudanese bishops retire at age 58. That's the constitution of the Episcopal Church in South Sudan. So I was ordained at the age of 69. So then Archbishop Reuben occurred it, and I met with the Archbishop of South Sudan. They said, you could continue, but your role will be as a missionary. So I'm a missionary bishop in the Diocese of Bor and in the Jonglei province. And what I see is my role is a ministry of prayer, ministry of healing, ministry of encouragement, and stand in solidarity with the church. Last year and this year in January, as I said, each time I was there, little more than 2 months each time. What I did, what I kind of figured out, that for 40 plus years, clergy and the people have been running from refugee camps, displacement places to another. They never got proper training for their theological education. So I decided in those 2 months, I will hold 2 retreats for 5 days each time. So I'll have 2 weeks of theological education. I have a doctorate in theology, so and over 44 years of being a parish priest, so I have some teaching experience. And so when I am there, I take a book, like from the Bible, like last time it was Mark and Ephesians. And next time I want to do Nehemiah, because I see my role as Nehemiah to build those fallen walls of the church, which has been, kind of destroyed by 40, 50 years of war and internal conflict and persecution, and equip the clergy. Whatever contribution I can play through the theological education, encourage and equip the lay leaders of Mothers Union and laymen, calling them separately each time for 2 to 3 days, and also give them theological training and time of prayer and hearing stories and figuring out, what I can do to help and encourage people in the church, and visiting churches, within the diocese where I will be invited. Then we have 3,700 children at St. Andrew's Primary and High School. I see my role, because those children do not have any help at this point from any partners in the Anglican Communion. So I've started reaching out to churches here in the United States and raising scholarship. And because of the present floods in Bor, where the water has been standing 2 to 3 feet on the roads and around people's homes and inside the houses. I walked last year when I was in June, July, there through that water. And once the water recedes, I would like to start building proper rooms, for these children's schools. So this year, my goal is to raise funds from individuals, from parishes. There's one parish in the United Kingdom who's recently said in Nottingham that they would like to be partner with me in this ministry. I would like, CMS Wales, if some of you will partner with me, that we build classrooms for those children, because those classrooms in the floods last time I was there were holes in the classroom. The water was standing. Students could not come. And I would like to see before the end of this year, 3 classrooms to be built, and within 5 years, maybe 10, 15 classrooms, and then have solar panels on those classrooms because there is no electricity, and provide them, education to those children who are the present and the future leaders of the church and of that nation. And that is my call. I see I have no ambition to be taking over of any diocesan position over there. I simply see my role as a servant of Jesus Christ and as a servant bishop there. And I remember the reading one time, what Emil Brunner, who was a missiologist, and I see also my journey of 44 years also as a missiologist. And Emil Brunner said, that the church exists by mission as a fire exists by burning. And this is what, Rana, you have called the church in Wales to exist, just like, the fire, exists by burning, that mission, not only just having little partnerships that we write letters and send little money, but really become prayer partners, really become to share and listen each other's stories and have visits and see what we can do. A church which has been totally destroyed, but their faith is so strong and vibrant that in 1998 Lambeth Conference, it was said openly so many times, the Episcopal Church of South Sudan is the fastest growing church. And so stand with that church, stand with us, Bishop Anthony Pogo, stand with me in solidarity, that as Nehemiah, we can build the walls of the church there. And the last thing I would say, pray. Pray for the church there, because that church, although I say is a church which is vibrant, living church, and holds the cross of Jesus Christ high, it has their own issues, going through their own internal conflicts, and that saddens me. And I've written to Archbishop my own letters and appeals of solidarity. And I really thank you. The last word again I would like to share with you is what Dr. Wizard Hooft said: missions are the test of our faith. And this is what you are doing. Missions are the test of our faith. Thank you very much. I appreciate for the privilege and honor to be asked to share my own faith journey and involvement in the church in South Sudan. Thank you so much. God's blessings.